guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. And I just realized I was muted. My bad. So basically what I'm saying here, guys, is that anything that the Proud Boys trademarks, tries to sell, things of that nature, well, now the church has something to say about it and could actually block it if they choose to. This is freaking great. When reached out to the Proud Boys leader, he said that the judge should be impeached and the church's nonprofit status revoked. Yes, because they did something that everybody else should be doing right now. The only way you're going to beat Trump and all those other people is the legal route, which is what this church did. Now, keep in mind, the Proud Boys aren't saying that they didn't vandalize this church, but the church gets the last laugh, now owning the trademark of the Proud Boys, which, again, funny as all get out to me. But we have to leave it at that because, again, probably, they're going to complain. And I mean they're going to complain. But that also being said, guys, Elon Musk, this idiot, and I say idiot in every sort of the way, has been granted access. Let's actually back up how the week started. So the week started as far as, Elon Musk, a individual who has multiple government contracts, supposedly a special government employee, if you believe the press secretary, now him and his team were given access to U.S. Treasury. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is you're giving someone who is considered the richest man on earth access to very sensitive payment systems, social security numbers of American citizens, and pretty much the purse strings of America. I'm sorry, but we should learn from DuckTales what happens when you give a single person the ability to amass horrendous amounts of wealth, and then you say, here's our treasury system, enjoy, which did put a lot of people surprisingly upset. There was even a protest outside the treasury that Elon Musk should not be having access to these things. I myself have sat there and said, because not only did this man basically pay his way into Trump's campaign, not only, again, how it's not a conflict of interest that this man is doing and putting his hands in so many pies, and yet he does not work for the US government because he's still able to keep his business holdings. I am trying to figure that out because, again, well, Trump said, well, he's a part of the Department of Government Efficiency. Dodge, whatever you want to call it. It's literally a one-person show that's given the green light to a lot of areas. And yet, we're all sitting here wondering, like, why is this allowed? Oh, because conservatives are quiet now. Because keep in mind, and I point you conservatives out, but don't worry, Democrats, I'll get to you guys too. Conservatives, you are way quiet right now. Because again, conservatives was all about, well, the Democrats are spending us out of house and home. The Democrats are doing this. They're overreach of government, things of that nature. We want smaller government. We want more states' rights. We want to limit what the U.S. government can tell us to do. Y'all are a bunch of effing hypocrites right now, aren't you? I mean, you let you let billionaires take over cabinet positions. You pretty much elected a convict, a felon, back into the Oval Office. Your treasury, our treasury system, looks like a big, nice little hunk of shiny metal that they would love to have. And yet, conservatives are not sitting there saying, "Well, this is what we signed up for." That just lets us know that how much full of shit you were. Because right now, everybody's panicking. But again, this actually just broke, and I want to throw this out there too. So what actually wound up happening, guys, is that somehow, some way, the Department of Justice did step in to limit Dodge's access to the Treasury. Here's the thing. Why does Dodge need it in the first place? That's the question that a lot of people on Capitol Hill have been asking, is why on earth do they need that access? Because right now that's being proposed and it's waiting for a judge to sign off on it. But again, why does he need it? Because if this is supposed to be the Department of Government Efficiency, number one, why does he need it? Number two, why is he involved? Because again, he hasn't, I mean, for him to work in the government, you have to give up your businesses or give up what you're running. And he has yet to do that. And it is amazing to me how much of a warning bell this is. And it's not really being said a lot. You don't see it on ABC, you don't see it on NBC, you don't see it on CBS. You may see it on Fox because Fox is going to keep their mouths quiet because, they're not really a news station. We found it out a long time ago, although I'm still mad at Dominion for not taking them to court. That would have been the court case everybody would have wanted to watch. But I digress. And then you have OAN and Newsmax and News Nation all trying to spin it. But it doesn't help that the napkins are striking back. And napkins, I mean crazy white people, for all those who are wondering why I say napkins. But again, it is being proposed that Dodge's power and influence should be limited because, again, if you haven't watched The Man in the High Castle or The Handmaid's Tale or Idiocracy or even Amazon's The Boys, what we're going through is pretty much all the above. Oh, and by the way, have the price of your eggs went down yet? Because last time I checked, they went skyrocketing straight up. And I can see a lot of people going, "Oh, but it's the bird flu." Okay, but wasn't this the same guy that basically got a lot of you fools to vote for him because he said he can get grocery prices down? I'm just saying, are you paying less? Probably not. But moving right along, guys. USA aid. A lot of us know it. A lot of us don't know it. But at the same time, Trump and his president, Elon Musk, both want to get rid of it. And So I stop it there, guys, because again, there's one little key sentence in all this. Outside of the fact that USAID was set up by Kennedy post Cold War to basically further humanitarian efforts and also to help with surveillance, counter surveillance against China and Russia and other foreign countries, it was set up mostly as humanitarian aid. Now, again, the sentence that you want to take out of this is Trump can't shut anything down without congressional approval, which means that as much as he signs executive actions or orders, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can go through. Case in point, when President Biden was president, he did an executive order to reduce student loans. We saw how that went. Just saying. So again, it's amazing that when he tried to reduce student loans, all the conservatives said he did not have the authority. And yet, after a long, drawn-out battle, unfortunately, that did not come to pass. But a lot of people, based on their conditions and already existing student loan plans and repayment plans, were able to get their loans wiped. Some people's loans were wiped because they got brought in by phony colleges and for-profit colleges. So again, there's that. Now, getting back to USAID, the reason why Trump could care less. Trump, until Elon said something, until Elon Musk said something, Trump knew nothing about USAID. He probably figured it was probably just an add-on to McDonald's, but nobody knew about it because he thought it was a secret menu. That's what probably Trump thinks about it. At the same time, Elon Musk, again, a man who is not a government official, who has government contracts, basically wants to think that he's cutting waste. But again, there is another reason why they want to get rid of USAID, and it has to do with South America. As they actually have to do with South America, specifically South Africa, especially South Africa, the place where Musk is from, that because of what's going there, USAID was actually helping people there. And Elon Musk, like most things, wants to exploit workers and therefore is not happy with USAID. So what has he done? He has got into the ear of Trump and sat there and said, you know what? This needs to go. It's wasteful spending. Is it really, though? Because it's not. Not in any shape or form. It's actually been very helpful. If you want to look at wasteful spending, check the Pentagon. The Pentagon has failed every audit they've ever had, and yet they've been given a blank check and as using the reason national security, and yet nobody blinks an eye. But yet you want to go after you have to actually went after one government entity that actually does help other countries, and you figured, oh, well, that is wasteful spending because that is part of Project 2025, and that is part of, Trump says he knows nothing about Project 2025, and yet you bring on the architect to handle the director position of the OMB. Right. You have no idea. He must think we're still talking to his flock. Anyway, speaking of Trump, he has a proposition for Ukraine. He will continue to fund the war effort, but like most businessmen who don't do anything out of the goodness of their hearts because altruism isn't real to them, he wants something rare in return. What does he want rare in return, ladies and gentlemen? He wants what they have, rare earth and critical minerals, in exchange for military aid, which is interesting because when President Biden was helping Ukraine, he asked for nothing in return, but yet Ukraine does have rare earth minerals. Lithium, gallium, neodymium are just a few because they can be used for electric. They can be used for electric batteries, solar panels, and also military applications. But what's so crazy about it is that's his line in the sand. That, hey, we'll continue to help you fight the war effort in Ukraine. You just have to give us your rare earth minerals and other things you're willing to give up. If you don't want Russia knocking on your back door. I'm like, I don't expect conservatives to say anything. Conservatives are war hawks. They're war profiters. They love the fact that they have somebody in office that thinks like them but says it out loud. They love war because that means private PMCs, private military companies are back in play. Weapons developers are back in play. We have a whole new theater of war, which means Christmas for some people. But it is amazing to me the fact that we've been helping Ukraine now for going on almost 3 years, and now Trump wants to lay down some ultimatums. Give us your resources, or we will no longer help you. Which I think is crazy. That again, for Trump saying that he wants to help Ukraine, that's a very dictatorish move. But we'll see what they say whether or not they accept that proposal. But also one thing, guys, that we're also paying up, because right now ICE is empowered They are going after anything and anybody. Trump wants to basically send people to El Salvador for folks that do not agree with him. And yet, at the same time, guys, with ICE, and because of immigrants and other people, which again, I said this yesterday about ICE, last podcast said about ICE, was that ICE was going after so far people of color. I have yet to see them bring in a Russian. I have yet to see them bring in somebody Czechoslovakian. I have yet to see anybody come in that doesn't fit the overall bill of what they're trying to do. I'm sorry, I don't see them bringing in anybody white. And I hate to make it that blunt, but it's true. They haven't brought in anybody white, but they went after those of the southern border. And they went after the southern border because why? That is the picture that Donald Trump painted. That he wants to basically jail up everybody. He wants to jail up everybody. But his board czar is like, even if it costs them families, so be it. As they try to argue birthright citizenship, which again, covered by the 14th Amendment. And yes, will take congressional approval to amend another executive order that Trump said he could do. And like most things he said, he lied about. But getting back to ICE for a second, here's the scary thing about empowering ICE agents, because when you decide that, hey, this is what I want to do, is I want to empower ICE agents to go everywhere and pick up illegals, you get some other idiots who are napkins that have the same idea, except it's a little on the illegal side. So again, I say this, and I say this ever so nicely. What other reason would these idiots have? These idiot napkins. What other reason would they have to impersonate ICE agents to try to gain access to facilities? What other reason is there? Because it's almost as if you're basically saying, well, what are they going to say? Because immigrants, people who are worried about their status in this country, and even if they are naturalized citizens, are still worried about their status in this country. Now that you have idiots who feel empowered to sit there and pretend they're federal agents and will, like they said, well, we don't know the reason why. Come on now. Come on now. I think at this point, if they're pretending to be ICE agents trying to gain access to facilities, come on now. What other reason would they do that for? To look for illegal immigrants, to detain legal immigrants, at least in their mind, because right now they feel empowered. And I say this to every napkin that's in the sound of my voice, or is looked up on this part of the podcast. Don't let your president get your ass whooped. That's all I'm saying on that. But yes, this is just leading to other issues that are going to come up, because as he is trying to do what he calls the largest immigrant removal in history, I think the Trail of Tears would like to have a word with you, but you're empowering or giving other people the idea that, hey, it's okay to do this. It's not. you're going to cause more harm, more destruction. At the same time, he has yet to come out. The ICE director of ICE has yet to come out and say, "Hey, please do not impersonate us." You see how quiet they are. Because I know if I'm the director of ICE and I got idiots out there pretending to be a part of my department, I think I should say a statement. Please do. If you are not a government agent, not if you're not a government agent of ICE, please do not go around saying so. We will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. But as you can see, crickets, all freaking crickets. But that being said, like I said, the napkin is striking back everywhere, including the FBI, to where a lot of people on the FBI side are highly nervous right now. So let's think about this for a second. FBI agents are concerned. Why? Because their future director, Kash Patel, wants to basically do Trump's bidding. Trump feels like the FBI was weaponized against him, although it was not. They did exactly their job through due process. And at the same time, we called it. Actually, not just myself, but other people that said when Trump came back in office, he was going to retaliate against everybody that went against him. The FBI is literally no different, especially after mass firings. 8 executive FBI agents were fired, which means that, let's see, what other reason why were they fired? Because more than likely they went against Trump. At the same time, the FBI is being cleared out, much like every other department is being cleared out because they want people who will do exactly what they want them to do, which is basically their bidding. Even though it may be immoral or even illegal, they want to get rid of those that'll be whistleblowers, that will turn around and they will not hold the line or carry the water, which again, this is Trump. He learned from the last administration what to do, and this time he is not making mistakes. But with the FBI, though, there's another thing that we should be worried about. Remember when I sat there and said Elon is literally getting information that he shouldn't get? Well, this one is the list of FBI agents that were working alongside the DOJ regarding the January 6th riots, or I should say the white terrorists that tried to basically overtake America. So, why does Elon want the list of all these FBI agents? I wonder. I can only speculate that again, it's all about retaliation. And Sorry, guys. I just found out that you may not be getting audio on this. So hold on one second. Just because we want to make sure that everything is heard. And I'll rewind that back. Thank you guys for letting me know. I appreciate that. But let's just try that again, because that is so odd that nothing was heard. Okay. Try this again, guys, and let me know. We're going to try this again, guys. Just let me know if you can hear it. Okay, so apparently we're still not getting any audio. All right, so we'll do this because it looks like we look like we might be running into some audio issues. Why it's not playing is beyond me, but you know what? It's cool. Work with it. Pretty much, guys, with the FBI list that's going out, again, this is all retaliation. They're basically saying that we don't want to, we were just doing our jobs. We don't want anyone to come after us. We don't want anyone to sit there and say, above all else, we didn't do our job. Pretty much, we just don't want to get harassed, which is exactly what's going to happen in Elon Musk's case, because he's only doing the bidding. I mean, well, let's be honest, it's not just doing the bidding, it's the fact that he's fulfilling what Trump said. And what Trump said was, yes, I am basically going to go after everybody that went against me. So again, not surprising by that, guys, really and truly. But we will follow that because again, the DOJ is stepping in, trying to limit the abilities of individuals. So we will see where it goes to from there. I'm going to be honest; it's looking dicey. It's looking dicey because he's going after everybody, like we said before, that basically was doing their jobs. Wasn't even retaliation, just doing their jobs. It just happened to be that he was guilty as shit, simply put. But moving right along, guys, and we're going to test the audio one last time before we just have to be just talking about all these episodes. So health insurance, we know it, we love it. Some of us love it, a lot of us hate it. However, because we have now, again, shaken up the deck, things like inhalers, insulin have all shot up. Really to the point to where we really should be concerned whether or not the next thing we have to choose is our rent or our medication.
Now to the issue of rising health insurance costs. The family of a man who died after an asthma attack wants answers about the cost of his inhaler. This morning, a Wisconsin couple is describing their heartbreaking loss, saying their son died from an asthma attack after choosing rent over medicine.
Walking into that ICU and seeing him like that, there's no way to prepare a parent for that.
22-year-old Cole Schmidtnick treated his asthma with an Advair inhaler, costing $66 a month. But last year, his family says Walgreens told him the inhaler was no longer covered by his insurance and would cost $539, 8 times more. Unable to afford it, Cole left the store without it.
He made $19 an hour. He worked full time. He had his own insurance. However, he couldn't afford $539.19.
5 days later, Cole's family says he suffered a severe asthma attack, later dying at the hospital. His family is now suing for negligence, arguing Optum Rx, a subsidiary of United Health Group, should have given Cole advance notice. They also claim Walgreens should have contacted Cole's doctor case was handled consistent with industry practice and the patient's insurance plan design. Just last month, the top manufacturers of inhalers, including the one Cole used, agreed to cap the cost at $35. Now,
And I've been muted. This has been a wonderful podcast so far. Thanks, Tafara. So what I'm getting at, guys, is that what I was saying beforehand is just that it makes no sense that we are literally in a country to where our medications, specifically life-saving medications, are too freaking high. Whether it's inhalers, whether it's insulin, whether it's other heart medication, whether it's things to keep or stem certain conditions at bay. The thing I'm getting at is that why are those medications so freaking high? But then again, you got to think about it. The U.S. is a closed off drug market. We can't get drugs from Canada or Mexico or overseas where the prices are significantly lower. We can't negotiate drug prices because conservatives have been given their marching orders to fight against it. And yet at the same time, a young man loses his life because he simply cannot afford his inhaler because of his medical condition. I've said it once and I'll say it again. The problem with the U.S. outside the big ass problem that we have whenever it comes to medications or cost thereof, the problem is it's for profit. Like that same inhaler, that Advair inhaler, $539 in the U.S. Want to know what it is? I just want to know what it is in Canada? Shocking. $32. 32 Canadian dollars for the same Advair inhaler that somebody in the U.S. has to damn near pay a car note plus for one. But again, tell me again that pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies love playing the blame game. No, they set the prices. Somebody does. But at the same time, these insurance companies are raking in $1 billion of profits. And all I can sit there and say is, I ain't mad at Luigi. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, tariffs. I love the fact that people are maybe, just maybe, understanding how bad tariffs are. Unfortunately, it's too little too late, especially for farmers.
Pause. Farmers across the country are still bracing for the possibility of President Trump's 25% tariff and that it'll go into effect. A large percent of the products brought in for American farms come from Mexico, Canada, and China. And possible retaliatory actions from those countries could impact both farmers' imports and exports. Our next guest is a former state executive director of the USDA Farm Service Agency, but most importantly, he's also a fifth-generation Iowa farmer and co-owns and operates Coyote Run Farm. He says a potential trade war will make their already difficult jobs even tougher. Matt Russell joins me now from his farm there in Lacona, Iowa. Matt, glad you could be with us. Let's talk about these tariffs. And if they do go into effect, how will they impact you directly as a farmer?
Yeah, well, I'm going to speak in broad terms for farmers because I've been talking to farmers for the last 3 years all over the state of Iowa and across the country. Nobody wants these tariffs in this kind of trade war. like nobody. The farm groups have been advocating, trying to work the politics here to make sure this doesn't happen. Farmers, we have volatility all the time. That's part of how marketing works. It's how pricing works, and it's how we make our decisions. But when you have, wild volatility that's created from political action and not something in the fundamentals, that is never good for farmers. And we know in 2017-18, the last time Trump started a trade war, that farmers, really took it hard, like huge losses. And then the taxpayers ended up, spending $23 billion building nothing, just making up for the loss. So nobody in agriculture wants this. It becomes incredibly hard to plan and to try to do your farming operation when you're facing this kind of volatility and chaos.
Let me ask you about Trump's first term then and the tariff war that occurred between the U.S. and China. How did it impact your farm in particular?
Yeah, so we do mostly, we were selling beef off our farm and doing specialty crops. My parents, the farm I grew up on, they were still doing grain. It took it right out of the bottom line. And then, the bailout, the marketing transition payments, the $23 billion came in and kind of kept them from, really tanking. That's no way to use taxpayer dollars. It's no way that farmers want those dollars to be used. So what happens is that we have built trade for decades. And for example, in 2017-18, we lost market share in soybeans to Brazil that's never come back. And right now, our soybeans are $10 at the local elevator. Not a price that is, barely getting by. And some folks are, depending on what your structure is of your farm, could be losing money at that. And then if we hit a trade war and we see that price go down even more, it's devastating to farmers.
Yeah, you say that, but at the same time, and I say, guys, at the same time, oh, well, tariffs could really hurt our farms. Tariffs could really hurt our business. Tariffs can really do a lot of damage. See, when I hear stuff like that, guys, and I'm just being honest with you, I go back to this. This board, which I know we're all tired, we're all sick and tired of looking at, but I go back to this board because you know why? The state of Iowa, right? Let's go to Iowa for a second. 56% of you motherfuckers were the ones that voted for Trump. 56%, literally almost 928,000 votes. You guys voted for it. You guys voted for it and therefore was able to send Dorito back to the White House. That being said, why are you surprised that because he said he's a tariff man? He's a tariff man. Trump considers himself a tariff man, which I have said multiple times on this podcast. Tariffs do not help anybody. Tariffs is actually the worst thing you can actually do. And at the same time, now you have individuals who voted for Trump are now realizing you did the FA part. Now you're at the FO part. And you've basically taken us with you. So yes, you farmers will take a hit. You farmers will go complain to Trump. Trump may or may not give you a bailout because he did last time. Actually, he gave you 4 bailouts in his last presidential term last time. Will he do it again? Sure. But the problem is, it's going to be a what can you do for me situation. Trump loves to create the hit. Here's the thing about Dorito. Dorito loves to create the fire and then turn around and be the firefighter that puts it out. So he feels good about solving a problem. Yeah, but it's a problem that he created. And trust me, we're only at the beginning. Of this. Wait till those tariffs hit. Wait till crops come in. Wait till the peak times for certain crops and fruits and vegetables come in. You're going to see massive price increases all across the board because, again, tariffs aren't paid by the companies themselves. Oh, no, they're paid by the consumer because companies still got to turn a profit. So the increase in pricing always reflects at the end. Won't be surprised about eggs, but bread and everything else, yeah, expect that mess to go up. But keeping with Dorito for a second, because again, he's been popular this week, he decided that he wants to create a sovereign wealth fund. I'm a little concerned.
So other countries have sovereign wealth funds, and they're much smaller countries, and they're not the United States. We have tremendous potential in this country, tremendous. You're seeing that, what's happened just in a short period of time. And as an example, TikTok, we're going to be doing something perhaps with TikTok, and perhaps not. If we make the right deal, we'll do it, otherwise we won't. But I have the right to do that, and we might put that in the sovereign wealth fund, whatever we make, or if we do a partnership with very wealthy people, a lot of options, but we could put that as an example in the fund, and we have a lot of other things that we could put in the fund. And I think in a short period of time, we'd have one of the biggest funds, and some of them are pretty large, I must tell you. Some of the Saudi Arabia fund is on the large side, but eventually we'll catch it. But we're going to create a lot of wealth for the fund, and I think it's about time that this country had a sovereign wealth fund. And these two gentlemen and some others are going to work with them very closely, and they'll be heading it up, and they're going to do a great job. Two highly respected people that have done unbelievably well in the world, in the real world.
Yes, a sovereign wealth fund is what he's going to try to do. How can I put this? Okay. How can I put this ever so nicely? I'm going to try to do it the best way I can. First and foremost, you could not do a sovereign wealth fund without congressional approval. Somebody should have told that idiot. Yeah, you can put your new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, on it, but he can't move forward without congressional approval. You need Congress to authorize this sovereign wealth fund. Now, he is right. Other countries do have sovereign wealth funds established. And it's mentioned that he mentioned those. Like, for example, Norway does it. Norway does have it, but it's based off oil revenues. And basically use them like stocks. Now, currently, if you go by that, but again, Norway also has universal health care. They also have taxes everybody pays, and you're not asked out every time you go to the hospital. But it's amazing how you mentioned China, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Iran, and Russia. Why does he mention those little six countries, not realizing that all those countries outside of Australia have one thing in common? Those 5 out of those 6 are ran by dictators. And at the same time, it's this thing that kills me where it's like, well, we might use it to buy TikTok. No, that's the exact reason why you want to use it. Because TikTok at this moment is still there. You did give a 90-day reprieve of the ban. People are trying to buy TikTok for the US side. So that way you can sit there and still be able to get your hands in the data because you already got it in IG and Meta and Snapchat. The thing about this is, guys, it can't happen in our country. Too much capitalism, too much assets over everything. And at the same time, I don't want Trump ahead of it. If there's anything historically we should know, Trump, when he gets a hold of money, doesn't do well with it. Keep in mind, and I love to say this all the time, especially to piss off conservatives, Trump is the only person I have ever seen bankrupt a casino. Yes, the casino, a literal foolproof way of making money, and he bankrupted it. How do you bankrupt a casino? Somehow Trump did it. And you want this cat to turn around and start a sovereign wealth fund with him and his friends behind it? We'll be fucking bankrupt. What'd you say, Mayhem? 45, 47 bargains like my 8-year-old. Pretty much. That's what it is. And it's scary that at the same time, and I said without congressional approval, keep in mind, Republicans do have control of the Senate and the House. It can be pushed forward to get that congressional approval. Democrats, unfortunately, are powerless to do anything right now, unless Trump just just saying. But again, that's just crazy how far they are going. Because think about what we've covered so far. They're mass firing the FBI. They're wanting to mass fire the FBI. They're wanting to basically get rid of anybody who isn't a Trump loyalist. And then the kibosh so far is that Trump is trying to fulfill one of his campaign promises, which is basically taking down the Department of Education. In the words of Lupe Fiasco, your child's future was the first to go with budget cuts.
And also appears to be taking steps to gut the Department of Education. Sources tell ABC News people working with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency were spotted at the DOE yesterday. Let's bring in Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas for more on all of that. Senator, thank you for coming on. The sources tell ABC News President Trump could soon sign an executive order directing the Secretary of Education to dismantle the Department of Education. Now, Congress would need to pass the necessary legislation in order to shut the DOE. So would you support that?
Well, listen, the policy of shutting down the Federal Department of Education is a policy I have long supported. If you look at the Department of Education, what it ends up doing is putting enormous bureaucratic strings on teachers, on schools, on education. It puts Washington in charge of what's taught to our kids. I think education ought to be a state matter, and even better, a local matter. And I'll tell you, Diane, in the last 4 years in the Biden administration, the Department of Education became an avenue for pushing radical and extreme policies, such as extreme transgender policies, were coming from Washington and being forced on schools across the country. And so I think President Trump is responding to the will of the voters in seeking to shut it down and to bring the power back to the states and back to the people.
Now, we spoke to the former Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, a little while ago on this. He says the Department of Education doesn't dictate curriculum at all. And he also said if the department is eliminated, students with disabilities would be affected because the department makes sure they have what they need to succeed, and that students in rural communities would suffer because they rely on federal funding more than urban areas do. So how would you ensure those students have their educational needs met if the DOE is dissolved?
Well, listen, I think the funding you can block grant to the states so that the dollars make it to the states without all the overhead, without all the bureaucratic weight of Washington. But, you know, it really is striking. You mentioned Secretary Cardona. You look at the last 4 years, and Joe Biden, the Democrats, presided over the greatest learning loss in the history of the United States of America. Coming after COVID, Democrats across this country shut down schools, and for many schools kept them shut down for over a year. Tens of millions of school children went a year or longer without going to in-person learning. That was devastating. I was leading the fight to reopen the schools, to get the kids back in schools. We're now seeing the data, and the learning loss that those children are facing is irreparable. They've fallen further behind than any generation since we recorded results. And I'll tell you, as a result of the Democrats' school shutdowns, African Americans have fallen further behind than ever before. Hispanic children have fallen further behind than ever before. So the moralizing of the previous Department of Education, it is a little rich, given that their policies will go down in history as utterly devastating.
Senator, I want to move on to USAID because President...
So I'm just going to stop there for a second because Ted Cruz, my God, Ted Cruz, I'm sorry. Isn't there like a snowstorm I'm sorry, Ted Cruz, isn't there like a snowstorm that you should be avoiding right now in Texas? Because, again, the load of BS that came out of that man's mouth, which, by the way, Ted Cruz isn't originally from Texas. He's actually Canadian. Canadian came straight down, and somehow, a Cuban Canadian now passing himself as a red-blooded Texan is still one of the funniest transitions you can ever see in life from that idiot. But just to point this out, guys, because he's from Texas, Texas is it's currently, as far as education and pre-K 1 through 12, Texas is 29. Your state out of all 50 states is ranked number 29 in education. Let me point something out to you, Ted Cruz. If you're going to talk about education, specifically the Department of Education being dissolved, and you're saying it should be left up to the states on how they handle education, sir, your state right now is number 29 out of 50. Lower your tone. Because I'll say this about the Department of Education. Yes, like the journalist said, if it's removed, it does more harm than good. Those rural schools do depend on that for federal funding. At the same time, kids with special needs also depend on that to get the care that they need, also get the education they should be getting. Leaving it to the states is a very, very dangerous thing to do, actually dumb to do. And I said it before, and I'll say it before I say it again. If you're getting an education in a blue state, you're probably fine. If you're getting an education in a red state, you're probably screwed. Because if you leave it up to the states to determine the education curriculum, we just covered Oklahoma not too long ago, folks. Oklahoma, where the superintendent there wants to push, they're pushing a religious public school. They're pushing that. At the same time, this is the same superintendent that wants to push Bibles in every classroom because he feels like the Christian way is the right way. Now, imagine, if you will, we no longer have a Department of Education. Do you really want states enforcing their own education system? That's why we have a Department of Education, that overall the same system, or I should say the same learning principles are across the board and for everyone. They are enforced everywhere. If you do remove the Department of Education and leave it up to the states, I guarantee you it will be way worse. Not to mention the fact that removing the Department of Education means that you remove Pell Grants, FAFSA's gone, so any aid for higher learning is out the window, which puts higher learning out of reach for a lot of people who don't have the means to get there. At the same time, he tries to mention that, oh, well, remote learning really set us back. I'm sorry, did we forget that COVID was a thing? That we really couldn't stop the spread once it actually got to the US? That the only way to do it was that everybody had to be home for a little while, except for essential workers. And yes, eventually we did get a handle on COVID. But they always say, well, that remote learning really set us back. I don't remember the conservatives doing anything to actually boost education when that was happening. I don't remember conservatives sitting there saying, well, more funding should be pushed toward the education system so that way these kids can get caught back up after a year of remote learning. I haven't heard one conservative say anything, but conservatives are always quick to sit there and say there's a problem. Oh, it's a problem, it's the Democrats. It's a problem, oh, it's the Democrats. Yeah, No Child Left Behind was a Republican tool, and no one talks about it. No Child Left Behind, state required exams to be passed in certain ways, teaching kids how to literally pass a test instead of learning. All conservative ideas. None of them talk about it anymore. But I'm going to leave it to George Carlin because George Carlin said it best on why conservatives want to attack education.
Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Now, what's crazy about that is, guys, for all those that don't know how old that clip is, that clip is, let's see, that was his, what am I doing in New Jersey? So, yeah, almost 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago, George Carlin talked about education. 2 decades ago. And yet, it is freaking spot on. And he's right. This is exactly what they want to do. Because I said it best. Lupe Fiasco said it best. Your child's future was the first to go with budget cuts. Because they want to, and I say before and I'll say again, conservatives can argue with me all they want to. Conservatives love a dumbed down generation. They do. They love a generation that doesn't think. They love a generation that's not critical thinking or processing. They just love a generation that is pretty much like gerbils pushing buttons. That's what they want. Hence why they're going after education. They want to not only rewrite education because, you know, white folks never want to be seen as infallible. You ever notice that even in the history books, white people didn't own slaves, or they'll try to say, well, Africans owned slaves too, or you know, we didn't start. There was other people that were slaves that were also not black. They'll find anything else just to level the blow of what their previous ancestors did. Whether it's the Trail of Tears, whether it's slavery, whether it's internment camps, or even more recently, where Trump decided to separate immigrant families by putting children in ICE detention centers like cattle. It is amazing to me how many times they want to whitewash history and say, oh, we didn't do anything wrong. Native Americans would like to have a word with you concerning how you did them wrong. Or Japanese Americans would love to have a word with you based on how you did them wrong. Again, with the African American population, I think that speaks for itself. But that's the thing about education. If history is not learned from it, you are doomed to repeat it. At the same time, everything that George Carlin said is happening because conservatives are greedy bastards. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, I said I was going to get to Democrats because, yeah, y'all going to catch this smoke too. So Democrats had their DNC chair election, and we now know who will be the future head of the DNC.
Have elected a new leader for the party. NBC's Ben Camisar is at National Harbor, Maryland, where the Democrats are meeting. All right, Ben, who's the new leader and what are we hearing from them?
Yeah, for Ken Martin, he's the longtime leader of the state Democratic Party in Minnesota. They refer to it as the Democratic Farmer Labor Party there. He won pretty convincingly, about a majority of the vote on the first ballot. There have been questions on whether or not the party would be able to come together and quickly elect a chair. And they did, with Ken Martin, who basically said the time for the fighting inside the Democratic Party is over. We now have a leader, and let's turn that fight outwards to take on Donald Trump with his message. I think we can hear a little bit of his words here.
We have one team.
That's right.
The Democratic Party. We have one fight. The fight's not in here. The fight's out there, right? The fight's not in here. The fight is for our values. The fight is for working people. The fight right now is against Donald Trump and the billionaires who bought this country. That's the fight, not in here.
So I'm going to stop it right there because Democrats, I got to talk to you for a second. Y'all are idiots. See, here's the problem with the Democratic Party. Outside of the fact that you guys, well, let's kind of start from the beginning of this. We really should start from last year with good old Joe. Joe Biden probably knew somewhere down the line he was not going to make it a second term. Now, he should have dropped out the race well before November. Yes, he should have. He should have actually dropped out at the beginning of January, where he's like, you know what, I'm not running again. I'm out. I'm 80+ years old. I did what I need to do. I'm out. And I say that because Madam Vice President Harris, she did the best that she could do with the time she was given. She did the best she could do. But let's be honest, some folks are still in their feelings about a woman being president. I know I certainly do not. It is what it is. Frankly, the last 47 presidents didn't really work out that well. So why not a woman? Why not a woman? Give a woman a shot. That's all I'm saying. But again, Harris didn't get a lot of time, although she tried to do her best. But going back to the DNC for a second, the DNC has a color problem. And I say that because only during election times does the DNC try to reach out to people of color. I mean, Fox News made fun of you guys for saying that, you know, black men aren't going to vote for Trump because black men can socialize with Trump. No, the fuck we cannot. We cannot socialize, nor can we rationalize being with a man who has cheated multiple times, the government, women, and his wife. And yet, because he got a mugshot, black people can relate to him. I couldn't say F you fast enough. That also being said, Democrats, again, waited. Was their message really pointed at people of color? Because, again, black women came out in droves and voted Democratically. Black men also did their part. So from Black America, hey, we did our part. Maybe you should look at the Latinos and maybe you should look at the white folks that voted for Trump because they voted for him in droves. And the napkins of the white women also voted for Trump, which again mystifies the crap out of me concerning the fact of how he treats women. But the DNC, you didn't mobilize. Your strategy was, well, old. You did not utilize people of color. You did not utilize having a different face for the leader of your party. You basically went what you always did. You basically, one white person voted for another white person. It's your own version of DEI, but you won't say it. But again, Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot. Well, we're one team. No shit. This ain't football. You guys need to come forward because let's be honest, unless Trump decides to, unless, Trump gets, or, he croaks, you guys are stuck with him and a Republican-controlled Congress for the next 4 years. And if Oglis's push for a president to serve a third term gets through, we're screwed. I mean, we're already cooked now. But for the next 4 years, Democrats, you guys should literally be, and I say this, if you really want people to get there, if you really want to get people's attention, Democrats, you just basically got to do this. Fact check every Republican on site. Because you know why? Republicans don't like being fact checked. It's the reason why Trump only technically did 2 presidential debates. Really, he only did 1. He did one with Kamala, and she wiped the floor with his ass. He didn't do any more debates after that. J.D. Vance, same way. Republicans don't like being fact checked. At the same time, Democrats need to hit the ground and talk to everyone, not just your donors that are giving out buku bucks of money to these strategists who are basically buying second and third homes, and yet you're not getting anything out of it. You should be fact checking. You should be calling them out. And I hate this whole thing of, and again, it's interesting that I forgot who said, Michael Steele said it. Michael Steele, former Republican chair, said this. Still surprised this came from a former Republican. He said, when it comes to Trump being president again, why do we have to be civil with him? Why? Don't get me wrong. Former Florida's Michelle Obama, I love that woman to death. When they go low, we fly high. I respect you, Mrs. Obama, heavily. At the same time, gloves need to come off. We don't have to be nice to Republicans. We fucking don't. Call them out on their bullshit. Fact check everything they did, everything that they do. Utilize social media. Actually bring people in to the discussions. The folks you don't want to talk to are the same folks that need to actually be a part of this. You got to get the ground running because 4 years, it's going to be a long 4 years. And like I said, unless Trump decides to, or unless someone, I'm not wishing it upon the president, but I'm just saying there's a reason why he doesn't do outdoor venues no more. But the thing I'm getting at is Democrats, you guys have the ability right now to really, not the fact of just going off leash, but really pressing them. You have the ability to press the administration, and the administration only has 2 options. They can either fess up or they will lie their asses off. Either way, keep pressing. Fact check, bring up everything, go to the people. Because here's the thing, people get dismayed about what's going on because, Republicans and Democrats, they're two wings of the same bird. Oh, true. But do you want Trump back in office or do you want someone else that's a little bit more capable? Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. But again, Democrats, it's not a good look that the face of your party has always been the same face of your party for several decades. I'm just saying, if you want to compete, things need to change. Gloves need to come off, and you need to treat these Republicans as hostile as their fans did on January 6th. Just saying. But the last story I got, guys, similar to what I just said, because now, Mr. Drunk Pete Hegseth, which is our new Secretary of Defense, surprisingly either drunk or heavily sober. We don't know. He doesn't have a breathalyzer on him, but I'm going to guess drunk. has decided that he wants to institute a new policy at the Pentagon. Major media outlets are being removed. That includes NBC, MSNBC, ABC, CBS are now being removed from their local outlets there and will be put on a new rotation program. Here's the funny part. Besides the NBC, the New York Times, NPR, and Politico are all being vacated. But here's the crazy part about all this. Not one mention of Fox News, not one mention of OAN, not one mention of Newsmax, not one mention of News Media. You know, the right-wing publications. They have not been told to move from their outlets inside. They have not been informed to move from their workstations inside the Pentagon. Now, why is that? Because that's their safe spaces. Every Republican goes to Fox News or OAN or Newsmax or News Media. They go to the safe spaces. They go to where they get their asses kissed. They refuse to go to ABC or CBS or NBC or MSNBC. Why? Because they'll see, well, those are the left-leaning progressive outlets, because they'll fact check you. Joy Reid, I love that woman to death, will fact check anybody, conservative or Democrat, as they should. But now that the Pentagon is moving out folks that will call them out on their stuff, what does that say? They're trying to control the flow of information. And again, this is the reason why podcasts like mine are around. Because we want to be able to bring it to your attention what they are attempting to do. And it's not surprising that they want to control the information because, hey, what you don't see and what you don't hear, you don't know. And it's perfect for them in that aspect. But also the fact that we have somebody who is possibly drunk in control of the world's most lethal military is a scary ass thought. Just saying. But that being said, guys, we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment because usually how the Frack We Got Here. We usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes makes you use your faith and humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. We're going to leave you guys out some good vibrations, hopefully, especially with this one with Angel Reese and her mom and what she's actually done for her.
Anyway, this is your cake. Before we sing happy birthday.
Oh, my goodness.
You said that if your mortgage was paid off, that you would retire. Or you won't work, or you can pick if you want to work still. So your mortgage today has been paid.
Ooh.
You dropped it. Today your mortgage has been paid. You ain't got to worry about your mortgage no more. And if you want to still work and keep yourself busy, you can keep yourself busy. But Jamel has your handle. Shout out to Jamel to making it happen, and Janine, of course. But
God.
Your mortgage is paid. I don't know if are you still gonna work? She's done with work, but your mortgage is paid and you don't gotta work. You don't have to work anymore.
Are you serious?
Yes. And when I moved to Chicago this year, actually I'm getting a house, y'all. You can come stay with me whenever you want to. So you
Lord Jesus.
Okay.
That's a beautiful thing. I don't care what no one says. The fact that, Angel Reese, very popular basketball player, has now turned around and told her mom, hey, your house is paid off. You own your house. You ain't got to work no more. You saw the contemplation. She was like, do I really want to go to work tomorrow now? I mean, my house is paid off. We look, as kids, especially I'm no different. Growing up thinking that, once I make it big, once I get that bank account just right, once I actually get that link just right, you want to go back and take care of the folks that took care of you. I mean, I still hope one day I can sit there and go back to my old man, sit there and say, hey, your house is paid up, old man. You can just kick your feet up and go fishing all the time if that's what you want to do. But great thing from that. The other thing I have is that for teachers, because with the Department of Education kind of in the crosshairs, educators are feeling very nervous. But on our feel good segment, we found a teacher that has actually used football, especially now that they're also an Eagles fan, as a way of how they connect their kids through sports.
We're counting down to Super Bowl 59 between the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs. This morning we are in Philly, where a second grade teacher is using football to help her students score big in math. Ike Ajachi's at the school. Hey, Ike. Good morning. Listen, for a lot of students, the word math, well, it's not really that much fun. But here at Mass Community Charter School 2, second grade teacher Amber Kiley, well, she's creating some touchdowns in her class with a little help from the Philadelphia Eagles. Take a look.
What place value is a 3 in? 100.
Amber Kiley's second grade class is taking math to the end zone, scoring big with Eagles stats.
This is actually my first year being a teacher. I knew coming into my first year I wanted to do something special and something different. So I decided, let's run with the Eagles. How did we get to learning about the 1,000th place value? Camille.
By Saquon Barkley.
Right, by his rushing yards.
The class taking inspiration from their hometown football team, the Philadelphia Eagles, even going as far as counting rushing statistics held by Eagles running back Saquon Barkley.
108 yards, 255 yards. I decided we'll start tracking his rushing yards, and I didn't know how they were going to take it, but they loved it. What number are we adding, Olivia?
205.
The students embracing the football-inspired lesson as they learn place values.
What place value is a 3 in? The 2.
Even watching football highlights as part of the curriculum. The Eagle spirit runs high at this school.
Even beyond the sports part of it, it's fostering that nice community environment here. We tie our football into our community, so they are learning about the community around us. What else have you learned from the players on the team?
To be kind. Don't be selfish.
To not be selfish, right? They've learned to never give up. They've learned to work as a team. They've learned that things get tough and it's not always going to go your way.
But one thing's for certain. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Hey guys, we are back here with Miss Amber Kiley and her amazing second grade class. And take a look, they're all decked out in their phenomenal Eagles gear. Guys, how we doing today? Yeah, there we go. Now, Miss Kiley, we know this is your first year teaching, but you are already setting the bar at a massive level. We know that these little kids right here, they are math superstars, and we want to see them at work. We have a wonderful student here, Benjamin, who's going to show us exactly the skills that he learned. So you guys take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Ike. All right, Ben, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's show off what we've been learning in class. So, can you take a step to the side? 1 plus 9.
10.
What do I do with that 0?
Put it down in the ones.
Awesome. And what do I do with that 1?
Put it up in the tens.
Up in the tens. Great. What is 1 plus the 1 that we had to carry?
2.
Good job. So 11 plus 9
equals 20.
Thank you. Great job.
Go, guys. Benjamin, let's give it up to him, right? How about that? Listen, guys, that was so good, okay? And our friends at Fanatics, they also thought that was pretty good, too. And they love how much you guys love the Eagles. So they actually got a little gift for everybody here. You guys want to see it?
Yeah.
Our friends at Fanatics are making sure that all of you are decked out in your very own special Eagles t-shirt for game day. How you guys feel about that? Yeah, take this is for you. Now we have Miss Boone here. She's another teacher at the school. She's actually doing a little double duty today because you are also a Philadelphia Eagles cheerleader.
Yes.
And she's on her way to New Orleans soon. So I got to ask you, second time for you actually going to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
How does it feel that you're back in this location again?
Oh my
back in
gosh.
this situation?
I am so excited. You know, the team has obviously been preparing and hoping for this all season long, but so have our students. They've been hoping for a Super Bowl. So I'm really excited that not only do I get to represent Philadelphia and the Eagles, but I'm representing all of our students here at Mass too.
These wonderful students. Guys, we got to thank Fanatics. We got to thank Mass Community Charter School too. We got to thank these awesome students and Miss Kiley here. I got one more thing. Can I get a little Eagles chant?
Oh yeah, ready? Let's do it. E-A-G-L-E-S,
We got some wonderful students here, guys, and they are ready for the Super Bowl. Good stuff.
You can't knock that. Also, at the same time, I love the fact that teachers do find a way to actually reach out to students, whether it's football, whether it's anything. You know, they're Eagles fans, but I'm a Titans fan, so, you know, I stay depressed. But, hey, depending on who you vote for, whether it's the Eagles or Chiefs, that'd be a good game. But shout out to educators, because educators, teachers, those that do work with kids, that have the patience of saints, we salute you. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. Sorry about the audio issues earlier. Hey, Talk Studios, we're working with it. But before I do get out of here, guys, I do some shameless plugging. First and foremost, shout out to APR TV or Always Press Record TV. Why? Because How the Frack We Got Here is showing on there as well. You can definitely check them out online at alwayspressrecord.com or APR TV on your smart apps. Our shows are there. It's a table that we love, guys, because it pushes our content, our viewership, most importantly, our dollars back into our pocket. So definitely check them out when you get a chance. Also, blurredstation.com. We have talked about this now for going on 2 years, guys. Again, another table to where our content, our viewership, most importantly, our dollars should be going to. Tubi is great, but Tubi is also owned by a guy who owns Fox, and Tubi is well worth over $100 million, and that's because of our patronage. Those same dollars should basically go back to us in our own pockets. And Blur Station is where you can definitely do that. To join Blur Station, you simply have to hit the Join Now button at blurrstation.com. Select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership. Any member there, whether it's myself, Black Spartan, Safari TV, Mayhem Media, Geek by Heart, Blur's Chris Fury, Room Full of Blurs, Navy Montel, anybody there, we would certainly appreciate that. At the same time, guys, it is $10.99 to stream Blur Station. $10.99 to stream Blur Station. After 36 months, guys, you actually be able to own a piece of Blur Station. It's never been easier to own a piece of a media company without going through E-Trade or shelling out a lot for just a single share. But definitely check them out at blurrstation.com. Also, guys, runforoffice.org. I have said this many times. You want to know how the conservatives did it? You want to know how those Moms for Liberty crazy people did it? They went here. They went here. They signed up. They found out how to run for their office in their state, and basically went from there. If you do feel the call of public service, whether it's local or national, go to runforoffice.org, type in your address. It will take you the process how you can get signed on to a ballot, and then from there, hopefully running into office. We need more action. I cannot stress this enough, not just at the federal level, but at the local level. Because if you haven't noticed this, especially if you're in a backwards city like Nashville, Tennessee, like mine, idiots are running the asylum. The only way you can beat them, guys, is to basically run and out and basically get in and get voted in. Change the system by going on the inside. But definitely check out runforoffice.org. As for myself, guys, I do want to direct you all, guys, to where you can find the show at How the Frack We Got Here. All together on IG, where you can find the How the Frack We Got Here page. How the Frack We Got Here can also be found on Facebook and on YouTube and on Spotify and on Google Play and on Apple Music. We're everywhere. So definitely, guys, find us all by that name. Like, share, subscribe. The link at the bottom, I think at the top of my head, has the links for where all the shows can be found, guys. Not just How the Frack Got Here, but my GB podcast as well every Friday. And again, we need the support. We cannot do this without you, especially on the Blur Station side, as we are trying to make sure that we are in conjunction with BlurCon to make sure that we're able to give you a quality experience there for those that cannot make it to BlurCon, and that's actually going to be in March. But hey, whatever you can give, please go over to the BlurCon site or go over to the Blur Station site, and more information can be found over there. That being said, guys, I know the Napkins Strikes Back is not the greatest title for this episode of the podcast, but it's true. It's going to be a long 4 years. So as the great Reverend Navy Montel said on Blur's Eye View not so long ago, check on your people, check on your friends, check on your strong friends, check on each other. This administration is going to beat us down. It's going to try to beat us down, wear us down, try to burn us out. We cannot, above all else, we must strategize, we must organize, we must mobilize. We have to. We are now the resistance. And like I said, even though Republicans do control Congress, they do not control the will of the people. That is us. And like I said, guys, you have to get involved, whether it's podcasting, whether it's protesting, whether it's fact checking, whether it's calling them out on their bullshit. All actions have to be done. And if we don't do it, guess what? They'll get everything they want and then some. And it will be longer than 4 years. But like I said, keep in mind, protect your peace, stay in your strength, stay informed, and that's how we'll beat this. The last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, guys, is all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind. We do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, and maybe one day electing our first black woman to be the first Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll get through this if my camera works. Peace.